Hello, everyone. I'm Kimberly Adams. Welcome back to Make Me Smart, where we make today make sense. It's Friday, January the 17th.
I'm Kai Ryssdal. Thanks for being here on this Friday. First Economics on Tap, the year, if you can believe it.
Yes, and it looks like it's going to be quite the year, won't it?
Yeah.
You sound tired already, Kai.
Well, look, I mean, honestly, kinda, yeah. Aren't you? It's like the fatigue of dread or something. I don't know.
I just spent about an hour reading a 50-page list of all the things. Anyway, I'll tell you about it later. We are going to do some news in a little bit, and then we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to play a new game. But first, before we get to all of that, we shall talk drinks. Kai, what you doing? You doing any dry January situation?
Well, no. See, I did dry January last year, and it didn't work for me. I drink so rarely to begin with. I only drink on Fridays and Saturdays. But for some reason last year, I decided to do dry January, and it just made me cranky. It made me cranky. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined and I can do it, but it made me cranky. So what happened actually, my wife decided to do it with me. And on the 28th of January, it was a Friday afternoon, and we're looking around at each other. And you know what? 28 days is 4 weeks, and screw this. And so she had a glass of wine and I had a beer. We made it, 3 days shy, whatever. But anyway, I'm not doing dry January, but I do have a soccer game this afternoon, so I have water.
Okay, fair enough. I also have water, but then I also have sake, because there's a sushi place near the office that I like to go to. Hey, I can have two drinks.
Yes, you can.
And they recently started carrying sake that's actually made in the United States. There's like a sake brewery in Virginia. Who knew?
Nice.
And so I tried it, and it comes in a can. And
I was just going to say,
it kind of reminded me.
There?
Yes, it kind of reminded me, it's a little dented because I dropped it, but it kind of reminded me of some of the beers that you drink with like the really funky labels and names on them. Like
totally.
This one is
Let's have a look.
Real Magic Junmai Sake.
There you go. Look at that. That's a lot of sake. Is that a 12-ounce can?
250 milliliters. Hold on.
I don't know. Somebody can do the math.
That
But
math right now.
that just looks like a big
I'm
can.
not drinking all of it at once. This is too much sake.
I'm like, wow, it's going to be an interesting podcast.
No. That's too much sake. But anyway, that's what I'm drinking. Let's see what the folks in the chat are drinking. Where did my chat window go?
So let's see. Bailey Moore's having a hot chocolate with mini marshmallows. There you go. Saw somebody having a what? Oh God, there's a Stone. So Summit EPA Stone Arrogant Bastard for Todd Welsh. I used to have ABs all the time.
Thanks for the E rating, Todd. C Photog is gonna have the hot cider with a little brandy. IDK is having green tea with ginger. Tim is having a Dr. Pepper Zero. Let's see, what else do we have? Justin is having a Guinness Zero, just as good as the regular Guinness. Okay. They've been really advertising that a lot for dry January.
Interesting. Somebody's having Wild Turkey 101. Yeah, Kahuna Cat's having Wild Turkey 101, lemon and Coca-Cola. That seems to me to be a very summery drink. I would totally have that in the summertime, but totally.
So people are very helpfully telling us that my sake can is closer to an 8-ounce can.
All right. Well, good. So feel free to have the whole thing. Feel free to have the whole thing.
No, that's still too much sake.
All right. Shall we?
What, do you want me to not make it through the podcast, Kai?
Look, you're a big girl. You can do whatever you want. Are you getting up at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning to do C-SPAN?
I am not. I'm going to be there on Sunday, and it's going to be interesting because they're going to already have like the area starting to lock it down. And so I have to plan my early morning commute rather carefully.
Yeah, totally.
All right. What you got for news, Kai?
All right. So I think I talked about this when it happened. Donald Trump filed a lawsuit against CBS News for the way that CBS News edited its interview with Kamala Harris, and when she was vice president running for the top job. And what happened was that CBS released 2 different transcript versions of the same answer. They had asked her a question about XYZ, and one answer was part of the answer, and then in a different transcript release, they released a different part of the answer. And I said at the time, and I still believe this, but that CBS shot its, excuse me, I kicked the microphone. CBS shot itself in the foot by doing that, because this was an extremely high profile interview. They had to have known that it was going to be jumped on as showing two different answers, and that was just a self-inflicted wound. Let me just say here, we do this at Marketplace. Interviews get edited all the time. That's the way it goes. You maintain context, you maintain meaning, you take nobody out of context, but you edit interviews all the time. CBS
Right.
did a stupid, stupid thing. Donald Trump sued that company for $10 million. The suit's been grinding on, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. The Wall Street Journal reports today that Paramount, which owns CBS, has discussed settling that lawsuit because Paramount has a merger deal coming up that will be reviewed by the Trump administration. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a media specialist to know that this is another very, very bad look for CBS and Paramount. They obviously are trying to curry favor with an incoming administration to further their business deal. And it's like obeying in advance. It's amazing.
We
It's
are
really
really
troubling, honestly.
seeing so many of these media companies do that. And then,
Yep.
there was Eric Wemple had a really good piece about the CNN lawsuit and just how poorly prepared a lot of those folks were for their testimony, and they've lost their jury trial on the CNN defamation suit.
Defamation suit, $5
And I
million
think,
at least.
yeah, and I think that we are going to see more of this, unfortunately, and it's a
Totally.
bad time for
It's really bad.
the media.
It's really bad.
The layoffs have been bad, and all of us know people have been directly affected by all of that. But the few places that remain, when they're acting like this, it makes it even harder. But
Totally.
we are going to
What do you
continue
got?
to do the best that we can. Okay, so on the journalism side of things, this is going to get real wonky real fast, but it's important. Okay. So the story that I brought is in the Hill. House budget Republicans eye more than 200 spending cuts, tax changes for the major bill. So as we know, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is about to expire at the end of this year, and Republicans want to extend many provisions of this, right? And that will be very expensive, as you said on your show today. It could tack another $4 trillion onto our annual deficits. No, the debt, not the deficit. And there are lots of different ways that they have been kind of kicking around to pay for or offset some of the spending. There was a brief flash of maybe we should raise the corporate tax rate. That got shot down right away. But
Sorry, just kidding.
but anyway, so House Republicans had this list that they not necessarily put it out, but I don't assume that the leak was accidental. Democrats got a hold of it, media organizations got a hold of it, and it's 200 items that give a very interesting snapshot into how they are thinking of making these numbers balance out, if they balance out at all, along with estimates for most, not all of them, of how much each thing would cost and or save. And it's things like what would happen if we change the SALT deduction by eliminating it altogether, and what would happen
State and local
if
tax
we
deduction.
thank you
SALT.
sorry about that.
You bet. That's all right.
What would what would happen if we change the way that doctors get paid under Medicare? What would happen if we added a work requirement for SNAP benefits? What would happen if we made every single kid who is eligible for a free school lunch, their family do income verification before they could actually get their free school breakfast and lunch? And they game it out. And the document is 50 pages long. It doesn't actually take that long to read. I think folks should go ahead and read it. If you don't want to, there's a Blue Sky thread that Senator Ron Wyden made, a Democrat in the Senate, laying out some of the things that are more egregious to the Democrats in this list. Some of the numbers are also a little funky in terms of how they're pricing things out. Some of it they're just guessing, but other things have been more scored out. But Republicans are very determined to push this extension through. And there are some deficit hawks in there that really don't want to add to the national debt or the deficit meaningfully. And then there are the blue state Republicans, the Republicans in New Jersey, in California, in New York, who are very emphatic that something needs to be done for their constituents about the SALT deduction, right? Which is one of the areas of where you could get kind of the biggest cost savings. So given that they don't want to touch the corporate tax rate, given that it's going to be really hard for them to do anything about SALT, that's probably going to end up costing more. That doesn't leave a lot of other places to make up the amount of money that this costs. So worth looking through it and seeing what they're talking about. There are things that may impact you, and it's worth having a look at what they're considering. So if you want to weigh in to your member of Congress, now would be the time to do it.
Yeah, it's actually a really good idea to just at least skim that document to see what's coming down the pike because Republicans are in control. They get to do what they want largely, and we should be aware. You know?
Yeah, and not everything on this is like, let's,
Right.
you know, do things that Democrats hate. Some of these ideas are ideas that Democrats are on board with. Some of these ideas are just in the very early stages. They don't even have pricing on them. But like very specifically, they want to wipe out all of these EV subsidy, the subsidies for a lot of the energy saving programs that went through in the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you are planning on getting a heat pump anytime soon, you might want to do that sooner rather than later if that goes away. Anyway, really interesting
Carrie,
stuff.
sorry, Carrie asks in the chat, is there a link to someplace other than Blue Sky? Maybe Courtney or Marissa, we could grab it and just put it on the show page, not on Blue Sky, but just grab the doc. You know, 'cause
Yeah,
not everybody's on Blue Sky.
yeah, the doc, I have a link in the document. I think they can post it to the actual list. It was actually the first one that they posted in the chat. It's the Ways and Means Budget Committee options. That link
there we
is
go.
the one that has the
Good.
whole full list on it.
There you go.
Great. Okay. So, yeah, let me go back. I had this document open. So, yeah, ask me anything about
right.
the 200 things.
All right, we're done with the news. We will take a quick break, pay the bills, and come right back.
All right, we are back. It is now time for a brand new game. We are going to try to play this game called In and Out. Drew Jostad is here to host. Basically, Drew is going to give us a topic or a trend, and we are going to weigh in on whether we think it will be in or out of fashion in 2025. Drew, take it away.
Starting off, more companies started pulling workers back to the office last year. So are return to office mandates in or are they out for 2025?
Oh, I have thoughts.
Given that the federal workforce is a huge part of the labor market and there are already quite a few chats about bringing them back, I'm going to say in.
I'm definitely saying in. Definitely saying in.
Yeah.
No question about it. No question about it. There's
I think we're gonna
there's no
really-
right to a remote workplace, you know?
Yeah, and I think that we're going to start seeing a bifurcation in the white collar labor force of the people who are, I'd love to find a nicer way to put it, but valuable enough in the workforce that they can demand it, and the folks who can't. You know, how expendable is your job? How expendable are your skills? If the people who can demand it will, and the people who can't are going to get stuck going back to the office.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, Drew,
All
what do you
right.
got?
Last year saw growth in the creator economy, but with the future of TikTok questionable, is influencer clout in or out?
Hmm.
That's a
I
hard one.
think, well, I think that TikTok is going to get rescued somehow by the president-elect in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm going to say that influencer clout is going to be in. It's still going to be in. There's so many people doing it, and it's a multi-bajillion-dollar industry. No question about it.
I'm going to say in, but with a caveat, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine in St. Louis the other day about all of the people who have turned their regular jobs into influencer jobs and that is starting to cause more and more problems. Airline attendants, nurses, doctors, engineers, whoever, who are turning the stories of their day-to-day experience into content for
Mm-hmm.
their platforms, and companies are really disliking it, and they're really starting to crack down. And so I I think this idea of like using your regular job to create content for your private influencer
Mm-hmm.
thing is going to see some pullback in
I
2025.
buy that. I buy that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Next one, 2024 was a big year for sequels and prequels. Are they going to be in or out this
Oh
year?
my God. There is no more original IP. It's crazy. I mean, yes, there is, right? I saw The Brutalist, and if you've got 3 hours, it's sort of a really compelling film. I think it's actually 3.5. I don't know. But generally speaking, Hollywood's going, all that freaking derivative IP, which does nothing for me. I wish it would be out, but I think just the economics of it make it so that all of that derivative IP is just going to be in. They're going to keep doing it.
But then you've got stuff like Shogun, and
Yeah, that's true.
which,
Well, also not original IP, by the way.
oh, that's true. That's right. It wasn't.
Right? It's a book. It
Never
was a
mind. It was a
1980s
terrible
thing. I mean,
example.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna agree with you.
Great
For
book,
lack of
by
a
the way.
better
Great book.
example.
Yeah.
So, from Beyonce to Kylie Jenner and Snoop Dogg to Matthew McConaughey, celebrities are getting into the alcohol business. Are celebrity spirits in or out this year?
I mean, now that we all know that any amount of alcohol is terrible for us, and
Bad for you.
what
Yeah.
every drink takes 5 minutes off of our life is what I saw.
But
Um,
sometimes it's really worth it. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, there's a reason that very few people in DC are doing dry January this
Right,
year.
right, right, right,
um,
right.
I'm gonna say out. Although, depends on what happens with tariffs.
Oh, wow. Didn't see
Because
that coming.
if it's suddenly a lot more expensive to drink the alcohol that people normally get that is imported, they will be way more open to other brands and brands that they can recognize, and celebrity brands are those. So, on
Yeah.
that note, I'm going to say in. I'm going to say in.
So there are 2 votes here for Aviation Gin, which I think is Ryan Reynolds.
Yes,
Um, Yeah.
but gin is the
Also,
devil.
there's somebody else. Patricia Lung said, wait, sorry, scrolling here. What about non-alcoholic celebrity alcohol? I mean, NA drinks, as we've talked about on this pod, is a huge growth market. So I think somebody should get into that. I think it's going to keep going. I think it's going to keep going. There's just people are too celebrity oriented, and they will buy Ryan Reynolds' gin or George Whoozy Face's tequila. I mean, it's going to stay in for sure,
All
for
right,
sure.
what's next?
George Clooney. George Clooney. That's who it was.
Last one, I think the audience gets to weigh in
All right.
They've
on
been
this
weighing
one.
in, but we'll
They
count it
have
this
been.
time.
Yeah.
With reports today that maybe that savior of TikTok would be Elon Musk, is billionaires buying social media platforms in or out for 2025?
I
I
mean,
was, I'm so glad we did the show on the oligarchy a while back and
mm,
like what it means in the country. Because obviously it came up in Biden's farewell speech, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
the increasing concentration of the platforms we use to access information and each other going into fewer and fewer hands
Mm-hmm.
is deeply concerning, is deeply concerning to me, especially when it is somebody like Elon Musk who has just power with so many different levers of control. Power through his access to the president, power through the money that he can spend on whatever he wants, power through his platform that he controls. And that is shaping not just like the policies that we will encounter and the way that our government is going to operate, but also like how we engage with each other. And the same thing with Meta and Zuckerberg and the different community guidelines and removing fact checking, we now have, I mean, maybe that's not particularly new, but we now have these billionaires shaping our interactions with each other in unprecedented ways with more data about us through those interactions and fewer alternatives. So here's my regular shout out to support local news and to support if you have any kind of local media outlet that is actually based where you are, to support them and, that kind of stuff.
I think so. Specifically about Twitter and Elon Musk, right? It gave him huge amounts of influence and reach, but it was a terrible business decision, right? He's lost gazillions of dollars. He can't unload that debt. The banks that helped him out can't unload that debt either. Look at Bezos in the Washington Post, right? Another billionaire who bought a means of mass communication. He's losing $100 million, I think, this coming year or last year. But
it doesn't
they don't buy
matter
it for the
to
money,
them.
right? They don't buy it for the money. They don't buy it for the money. They buy it for the influence. Interesting poll, very interesting poll. Out 50%, in 49%. How about that?
Yeah, I guess I think it's going to continue to be in. I think it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, it's going to keep happening. Totally.
Although I did see that Mark Cuban, I know we're talking all about Blue Sky now. Cuban posted on Blue Sky that he'd be happy to invest in a TikTok alternative built on like Blue Sky's protocol that's more like open source. So, there's that. Stephen
Mark
Rowan
Cuban,
is
though,
asking,
also a billionaire, right? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Stephen Rowan was
yeah.
asking, how is Mastodon doing? Completely unrestrained platform. Is not what people want. Yeah, I tried Mastodon before I tried Blue Sky. I couldn't sort it. And thank you to everybody in the chat and in Discord and elsewhere who tried to help walk me through it over and over and over again. I just couldn't quite make it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is going to be interesting to see where, if anywhere, people land. Do we continue to just sort of silo ourselves further into these little micro communities, or will there ever again be that sort of universal town square that Twitter was for? And I guess it never really was. It was always a narrow slice of the population. But what is the way that we're going to develop a national consensus?
It was a narrow slice of the population, but it was broad spectrum, right? And what's happened now is
Yes,
the Blue
that's
Sky
right.
mostly is people who are not aligned with the right and the far right in this country. And Twitter now has become, in addition to being a cesspool of racism and hatred and bigotry and all of that, it's really aligned with the right.
Yeah. And then there's Truth Social, which I was thinking today, because I was trying to get myself on all the lists I need to be on for the new administration. And I was like, do I need to get on Truth Social just so I can, see the things more quickly? I mean, I'll probably sign up because I need to.
Right.
I mean, I can obviously see it reposted elsewhere, but timeliness matters in our business. So I'll probably go create an account or something.
You just lurk, right?
Good luck for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, look, that is it. That is it. That's all we've got for today for our first. Oh, wait, we have to have the music on the way out. We already did the results report.
There we go.
I didn't even make it that
Now
far
I
into
think
that
we're
sake. Jeez. Anyway, that is it for us today and our first edition of Economics on Tap. Thank you to everybody who joined us, and I hope everybody had a nice time away, holiday, if you could. And yeah, keep sending us your questions, your comments, things that you think we should be doing differently on the show, that you like, that you want to see more of, less of, etc. You can email us at makemesmart@marketplace.org or leave us a voicemail 508-827-6278, aka 508 you be smart.
Make Me Smart is produced by Courtney Bergseeker. Jake Cherry engineered today.
The team behind our Friday game is Emily McCune, Jamila Huxtable, and Antoinette Brock. Marissa Cabrera is our senior producer. Bridget Bodner is the director of podcast, and Francesca Levy is the executive director of digital.
And there you have it.
There you have it.
Boom.
First one in the